is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 273. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him... sitting here on a Sunday, a little bit chilly. Austin, Texas, cold front coming through last night. How was your Thanksgiving, my friend?
Oh, it was great. Had a wonderful day. Ton of good food. Saw some good friends. Played a bunch of darts. Played a bunch of cards. Did stay up till 5 o'clock in the morning, so that was a little rough.
The AG didn't, right? I did see a picture of that.
No. He was who I.
Oh, he rallied?
He caught his second wind, and then that's what put us over the top there because the FIFA started flowing. So I struggled yesterday, but okay. We're recording Saturday. I'm not going to do this again. Like the timeline gets all fucked up. It's Saturday. Friday I was hurting. Thursday I had a wonderful day. How was your Thanksgiving, my friend?
It was good, man. Like I said last weekend, I did my best, gave all of my effort like Diego Rubio at the dinner table and on the couch. And hey, man, I mean, we're all over the place here in this intro, but we may not face each other in the fantasy playoffs this year for football, but Spurs Lakers, baby, NBA Cup. It has never meant more here in the North End. That NBA, it's never meant anything, I think, to us. But I guess a couple years ago, the Lakers won it. But
it's the most prestigious trophy you can win.
I don't know, man. And look, here's the type of effort that we put in, even when we dropped the podcasting veil 2 minutes in. It's 70 degrees outside. It's cold tomorrow, E. I looked at the weather. Come on, look. I'm on top of everything here.
You gotta stop, man.
I gotta work.
I was like, when you said that, I was like, I thought it was really nice out today.
I was looking at the weather this morning when I got up, so I saw the cold front coming through. Shit, man, we got a lot to talk about here today, so we can go ahead and quit fucking around. Option decisions, of course, came out midweek with that deadline on Wednesday, so we've got some goodbyes to go through. We've got some surprising options exercise, some new contracts, both for existing players, bringing a homegrown on board here as we've been wanting to see. We've got the goals bracket. We've got some rumor mill, everything under the Austin FC umbrella here on episode 273. Before we get into all of that here, just want to remind you all listening or watching on the YouTube channel that you can support the show financially by downloading the audio versions of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. So Apple, Spotify, wherever you get those pods, toggle on auto downloads. That'll support us going forward, and you don't have to think about it again. If you want to go that extra mile, it's the holiday season. You're in the giving spirit. You rate and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. And if you have that holiday spirit and you're watching on the YouTube channel, you hit that subscribe button. That does help us grow the show. And you can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, here on episode 273, hit the thumbs up, like the video. Help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords by atoning for your sins. Wash yourselves clean in the gravy of the North End. So I guess let's go ahead and get right down to it with those option decisions. And let's start with the departures. There are 3 of them, and those 3 are Julio Cascante, Diego Rubio, and Jimmy Farcarlin. After we got the hint from Diego with his kind of preemptive goodbye post on Instagram before last week's episode, we all expected Julio to be gone. And I think Jimmy had also hinted to, I think the We Are Austin TV guys after the Fcito season had ended. I think he told them in a post-game interview that he expected it to be his last go around there at Palmer Field. But I want to start with Julio, right? Because Julio is, I mean, he's one of the OGs. Right, yeah. I think one of 6 guys that were left, if you include Owen Wolff, right, who signed in the middle of that expansion season. But Julio's been here from the start, man, and we knew the body language that we observed in that final, that game 2, the elimination game against LAFC about a month ago. All I can say is what's on the screen there, man. Thank you, Julio, for the look, man. The ups, the downs, and everything in between. The one thing, and you can't say this about every player that's come through Austin or was here at the start. Like, I don't think I ever questioned Julio's effort and his give a shit level, right? There were some times where that you saw the limitations, right? And there were some times too where you saw where he could really excel rather, especially scoring those goals the first few years that he was here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was what I was going to be the first thing I had to say about him was, he really cared. He loved this team. I think he loved the city. He's definitely some people's favorite player still. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like he's been around for such a long time here with this organization. And, he was somebody who really cared about this team and winning and this city and his teammates and everything. And from all accounts, teammates loved him as well. Never heard a bad thing about the guy. And like, to see him go, it's a business, and the cap that he was coming in at is just, it's not efficient. If we want to be a really, talented roster, you can't have your fourth center back making, $250,000. Like it's just, it's just not how this works. So definitely wishing him the best. Have some great memories of him for sure. And like you mentioned, his ability to have a nose for the net, be in front of the net and score some goals for this team. And we were really struggling to find ways to score. And it was like, all right, maybe we can get a goal from our center back, and see if we can get on the board here. And he found ways to do it. And there were plenty of times where, I was super frustrated with not his effort levels, but his execution on the defensive side of the ball. And, no player is perfect. And that's something that he struggled with. But all in all, a fantastic career here in Austin for Julio. And I'm going to miss him for sure. He was a fun guy.
Yeah, no question. And I will correct you there. I think you just misspoke a little bit. $750,000, upwards of that was his cap hit. You said $250,000 there. But again, I think everybody who's listening to the North End, right, understands. We've been talking about that contract for a while now. And that is now officially off the books here. I mean, and thinking about some of our favorite memories, maybe it is indicative of why Julio is on the way out, not just because of the contract, but because I think most of my favorite Julio memories are offensive highlights, right? And the one that I think first is the header that he put in against Inter Miami, game 2 of the 2022 season, right? That ended up being, I think, 5-1, right? Coming off the heels of the 5-0 over FC Cincinnati. So he heads it in down there, I think the second goal of the day, in the South End, and then he almost slips and busts his ass because he jumped over the boards to go celebrate in the South End, and he almost, I think I saw the club post that, or somebody posted a camera angle from the South End of that one, and that made me smile, man, because that was, again, like, that was a hell of a time where our expectations were not raised at all, and we come off of the huge season opening victory, and then here we are again. Julio bangs in that second goal in the first half, and we were flying, man. So that was one that came to mind for me.
Yeah, I mean, rolling that San Jose player off the pitch, that is a core memory of being an Austin FC fan for sure. This season, saving that ball off the goal line
Or
versus Minnesota, absolutely fantastic play.
Or at the midline, the back.
Oh, yes,
kick?
I'm sorry. Not the goal line. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes. Again, another misspoke there. At the midline, that crazy kick, but that was going to be a breakaway, essentially a goal-saving opportunity.
Yes.
So that was another one, but I mean, still rolling that dude off the field is just top tier content right there. Yeah, man. He was paired up. We had that kind of that interesting kind of rotation at center back where we're really struggling to find someone who we could really trust. And you get Ruben in there, and they had the nice little pairing going on together where both of them could kind of interchange and move up the field and provide some offensive input. But Ruben obviously much more stout defensively than Julio, being paired up with Alex Ring at times when we had nobody back there to work with. The struggles of Leo Väisänen, it wasn't like, if you're looking at some of the defensive struggles for Julio, it was never like he was really paired for a long time with another center back where you can trust that guy and like he can build some chemistry with him and everything. He's been the one kind of, not stalwart, but standard that we've had back there to try to find some continuity at the center back position. And, again, he gave it his all when he went out there. And like we talked about with, Rubio and the characteristics of players like that, not everyone has it. It's just not everyone has it where it's like, I'm going to bring my lunch pail to work every single day, and I'm going to put in a hard shift where I put out everything I have. And I think he, more often than not, left everything that he had on the pitch whenever he suited up.
Yeah, and the way, well, and I think just to piggyback on your point about his center back partner and the pairings back there, like the longest stretch I think he had of consistent starts with a partner that is also starting the same games is that 2022 season with Ruben.
Yeah.
And then when we've had consistency going forward in that other center back slot, it's been Julio that's been in and out of the lineup, whether it's injury, right, to start 2023, or bringing in other center backs that are competing and earning minutes over him at times. So, and another thing too, man, we talked about, we've joked on the show about the game doesn't start until the official has to go and stop, a set piece or a corner kick or something like that, and go talk to Julio, tell him to calm down, get your hands off that guy or whatever. And that's something, right, especially in certain portions of this 5-year stint that he had here in Austin, where we didn't have anybody else to mix it up like that, right? True. And he was the guy that we looked to give us a little bit of that bite, a little bit of that edge. And I believe multiple goals against Houston Dynamo, right? A red card against Houston this year as well in the Open Cup at the end of that game. We could keep going on here and thinking about more and more Julio moments. What else do you have?
I mean, 9 career goals, with the team. And, I don't know
where does that rank? Is that top
exactly?
10?
I don't know where that ranks on the all-time list, but it's not low. I can tell you that much for sure. I mean, he's 32 at this point, right? So kind of, tailing off the athletic prime that you could have here and everything. Not that you need to be overly athletic to play the center back position, but again, this really boils down to what he was hitting the cap at. And like we talked about before, like, I'm not going to ask the guy reasonably to take off $500,000 off of what he was being paid and re-sign here. Like it's not reasonable to do that. So with all those things involved, it was time to move on from him.
Yeah. And, he's 32 years old. It's not like he's completely over the show yet. It's just, it was time, I think, all things considered.
Yep.
And for the record, Julio Cascante leaves Austin currently the tied for the 9th leading scorer.
I was going to say, I think he'd probably be top 10.
He is tied with BV, Azuni, and Cecilio Dominguez with 9 career goals for Austin FC. God, dude, it's going to take a while till somebody unseats Seba, 51. Number 2, Diego Fagundes with 17. So there's, again, 34 goal gap between 1 and 2. And we've still got some guys, right? Like, if you have the year that you're supposed to have, you are maybe John Gallagher, who's 3rd with 14. He could get on top of Diego with a really productive year, right? We've seen him have a productive year at the fullback position, albeit starting the majority of that season. But Owens at 10. I mentioned BV and Azuni on 9. Buka's only at 6 here. Yep. So again, like, you see the names that Julio is with. There are no other center backs on that list up there with 9 goals. So anything else for you on Julio?
I just wish him well.
So on those other 2, we talked about Diego Rubio last week. So I don't think I have much else to add on Diego. Anything else for you on Diego? If not, we can go ahead and talk about Jimmy. And Jimmy Time, man, rest in peace to Jimmy Time. Not he didn't die, but it's over here in Austin. And that was, he lit the fan base on fire for weeks.
Absolutely. I think for Diego, I'll just echo that I do think it's going to be hard to replace a player of his caliber on a supplemental roster if that's the way we want to go with it. And I'll leave it at that. Also wish Diego well, obviously. Jimmy, man, came in, lit the fan base on fire for sure. And, you don't want to struggle, out of the gates in the preseason. You want to play well, of course, but the expectations that started to be lumped on him after a strong performance in the preseason was definitely a bit unfair, and he did have a lot of super high quality moments at the next pro level, but it was never like he was, in the top 11 for that league. And, I think, I don't know when it was that he was kind of hinting that, his time was coming to an end here, but it seemed like the writing was on the wall with him. And like, I think something that might get lost in the dialogue surrounding Jimmy is that he's like 25, right? Like he's like 25 years old. You know, you think about the next pro guys and guys you've drafted in the generation Adidas, or not the generation, the draft. You anticipate that they're younger, but like he's the same age as Danny, you know, and like he's older than Owen Wolf. Like
he's 24. He's a year younger than Danny.
Oh, okay. So he's younger than Danny. But so like, it was I don't know if it was unfortunate, man. He was a next pro caliber player. You know what I mean? Like he's probably a USL guy. And like there's nothing fucking wrong with that. It's just that you could see when he wasn't getting a single opportunity to come up and sniff the first roster, particularly last season when we were fucking terrible. You know what I meant.
Yeah.
It just kind of seemed like there wasn't going to be an avenue for him to get there. And then like, you know, you have the emergence of CJ, you get the Buka signing, getting him in here, and like that adds wing depth. You know, we go out, we get Robbie Taylor this past season. Like we bring in some more guys who can play on the wing. Hader obviously has his career year with us. And just didn't seem like he was going to be able to carve out any time. And, hopefully he can land somewhere in the USL and find some time there. And I think he's very capable of that. And again, we've talked about it plenty of times. Like just because, you're 24, you're a bit older, doesn't mean your story's necessarily done. You know what I mean? Like you can find ways to go improve, get better, and then try to get back into the MLS if that's the route that you can take, man. So like, I wish Jimmy well. Again, another guy who I think was a standout kind of dude. And, talk about, spectacular goals. Like for the amount of goals that he had, a percentage of them it was very high that were like eye popping, kind of like, shit. Like that was sick.
Yeah, absolutely. I think on the road against Real Monarchs this year, where that kind of a monotonous game, and then all of a sudden it was like 50, 60 minutes in, something like that. Like the toughest angle from any Austin FC 2 goal that I think we've seen, just like bangs it in the top of the net. 47 career appearances for the second team for Jimmy, 9 goals, 13 assists. And I didn't do the research on this before we hit record, but I imagine 10 of those 13 are to his old roommate CJ. You remember that connection?
The connection
from right to left?
Yeah, it was super, super fun to watch, man, with those two guys. And like, we caught plenty of Next Pro matches, and those two guys were awesome together. They really, really were. But again, it's a business, man, and he hasn't found a way to get into the first team.
Yeah, and age 24, he's got 3 caps for Liberia that I think all happened in this last calendar year. So still looking up on the national team level for Jimmy. Like you mentioned, USL. There's also just the global landscape where he could find himself playing anywhere around the world, right? This is not the end of Jimmy's career unless he wants it to be, in my opinion. It's just the end of the road right now for him and his time with Austin on the first team. So we'll obviously keep track of some of these guys throughout the offseason and see where they end up. But let's talk about the guys, I think, that will be here. And so Austin FC exercised the contract options for 2026 on Stephen Cleveland, Danny Pereira, and Riley Thomas. And then in that press release, the contract option for Brendan Heinzike was automatically triggered, based on performance metrics he hit in that 2025 season. But I want to start with Stephen Cleveland, man. This, especially because we got the Diego hint well before the day that these option decisions came out. This is the biggest head scratcher to me. And I think just over the last season, I have become, I think, Stephen Cleveland's biggest hater. And I'm not trying to hate on the guy. It's just the roster build. And I would also sit here and say, I don't think he's been overly impressive in the few chances that he's gotten. Because we always will remember the PK save against Pumas.
Absolutely.
He was shaky in that game.
He was not good in that game.
Leading up to that moment. He let in 2 first half goals. It's a team sport, but he was in net when we let in 2 first half goals against El Paso. And 2 weeks before that, he was in net for Austin FC 2, losing to Dynados.
Yep.
So again, I'm just putting it out there. This is a head scratcher for me, unless Stephen Cleveland is being moved on or Damian Loss is being moved on. And we can loop that into this conversation here. But I am, if we go into the season with Stephen Cleveland on the senior roster, Damian here or not, that is inefficient roster building. It's a footnote on it, but you know that I pay attention to everything on that roster. So like this is a bugaboo for me right now, having a backup goalkeeper on the senior roster. I haven't done this research either. I bet you if we go through the roster profiles that the league puts out, there's got to be less than 5 backup keepers on the senior roster, and that might be high.
Yeah, I definitely don't know that figure, but like it's not only fair to talk about the inefficiency of this if we're going to talk about how inefficient the Julio contract was, or the inefficiency of Jimmy not being able to crack the first team lineup. And like I got the spreadsheet pulled up right here on the northendpodcast.com, man, and like dude, he's getting $275,000 a year, and he's taking up that roster spot. Like this is just not what we wanted to see. I definitely thought he was done. I mean, like I really, unless Roto has somewhere he's shipping him, or you have some sort of deal for Damian Loss. And then even then, I think it would matter to me what that deal looked like and what you're getting in return for Damian Loss, because obviously Damian is a much higher prospect than Stephen Cleveland is.
Absolutely,
and I would much rather have Damian be the backup to Stuver than I would Cleveland. So like that is super inefficient in my book, and I'm looking at the other spots in this team, and it's just like, you're paying $1.2 million for Hot Air Obrian and Robert Taylor combined. And if we're talking about guys who haven't fucking produced, you got 1 goal and 1 assist out of both of them combined last year. And like, I pointed out the Julio thing and like the fact that I think the money was probably the largest component of that. And like, it's just only fair to point out that we have some dudes on this team who aren't that fucking good that are taking up a large portion of this salary cap, man. And like, this is, again, something that Roto has plenty of time to work through and everything like that. But like, this one is a super head scratcher for me too, because like what is anyone anticipating Cleveland eventually being the heir to the Brad Stuver throne? Like, no,
it's Damian.
Of course it's Damian. And like to have Cleveland on this senior roster, man, it's a bit bewildering.
Well, and it's Damian in where we stand today, right? Like, again, like you kind of hinted at, if you have a sale lined up for Damian for, I don't know, 400, 500K GAM, okay, do it. But then I also would like to get I don't care who the backup keeper is as long as they're on the supplemental roster. I mean, I do care, but to me, the roster spot is the more important thing to me. And Roto talked about in his last press conference the salary cap hierarchy that he is trying to, that loose hierarchy where the players who score the most goals and are the most quote unquote important to the team make the most money and on down. And dude, if you're doing that, then again, you got to have that Obrian, that Taylor contract. Those things are in your sights. The Cleveland senior roster spot needs to be in your sights. And all of those things could still come to pass the way we want them to play out. But that's not where we are here standing today.
No, it's not, man. Those I gotta X out of this spreadsheet, man. I can't keep looking at this Obrian contract. I can't.
Well, I do want to loop in this, and I'll shout out our resident Louisville City fan, Trevor Allison, who pointed this out in a chat that I saw. The Louisville City Instagram social media admin responding to a question from one of their fans about potentially getting Damian Loss back on loan next year. The Louisville City admin says Damian is expected to stay with Austin FC next season, but we, meaning Louisville, have more goalkeeper news to share soon. So they have moved on. Damian is not being loaned back for a 3rd season to Louisville. Now, the Louisville social media admin does not know what Rodolfo Borrell is planning to do with Damian Loss. But we know now it's not a loan back to Louisville at the moment. So it still could be a sale. But if you have both of these guys and you're shopping both of them, it may be easier to move Damian. But I would love to keep Damian as the backup now, because you go next Pro Keeper of the Year, win the title. You go win the Shield with Louisville. You go back to Louisville, you win the Shield again, you win the Golden Glove, right? So he has conquered, to the best of his ability, the 3rd division, the 2nd division, and now come be a backup for a season, maybe 2 behind Brad, and compete and see where we're at after that. But if you keep Stephen Cleveland, we need that senior roster spot, man. You need it because we've seen the overall inability. We know how tough it is to get guys on that senior roster, senior type guys. A Diego Rubio, to your point earlier, how hard it will be to replace the talent floor of a guy like Rubio on a supplemental slot that doesn't count against the cap. So again, we're probably just starting to talk ourselves in circles about the goalkeeper depth chart and their roster positioning here, but that's the biggest head scratcher to me out of all of these.
Yep, I'm right there with you.
So jumping back into those, I guess, look, real quick, the Heinz-Ike auto trigger.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fair to maybe just say, hey, it's a little interesting that he had one of those after Roto rightfully shit on the auto trigger that was in the Emiliano Rigoni contract. 12 appearances for a DP triggers the option. I would assume that this is not, that the bar for BHI to trigger that option was nowhere near as low as that Rigoni deal. And also BHI is not, he's not on anywhere near the money, not taking up a DP slot, etc. But I did find it a little interesting that we are giving out those auto triggers. And again, that's good. We wanted Brendan back. So it was not a surprise that he's back, just did learn that in the press release.
Yeah.
Danny Pereira also, of course, exercised, now on an expiring contract here, E. So no Danny extension yet. And that can come at any point during this offseason. I do think unless you're going to move on from Danny, you probably are going to at least get him on another 1+1, maybe sprinkle him a little bit of a salary increase there for that one guaranteed year. If we don't see a contract extension by the summer, then you really, and fans are going to start asking questions well before the summer if we don't see one. But you're now in a place, I don't think we've been in this spot with Danny before, where he's on an actual expiring deal. I think we've always gotten something done before that final year came up.
I mean, it would be malpractice to just let him walk somehow, let him expire and not to have any sort of contract or move on from him or what have you. So I'm practicing patience there, and we got some time to get that figured out in regard to getting him potentially extended, working on some sort of sale, and again, it's what's the figure going to come in at for the sale for me, because we understand how important Pep is to this team, and getting a nice bag of cash for him would be great. But he's also a guy that I think, if you look at it, like we just brought it up, he's 25 now, and like, has he taken that next step where it's like Europe is lining up to get his services? I'm not sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if that's the case, then I'd like to have Pep around for a long time. I think everyone, or the majority of the fan base, is kind of resigned to the fact that Owen Wolff will be moving on at some point in time. And we have, been upset about, the fact that we had these younger guys and we got to watch them grow up. And it's like, now you want to reap the benefits of having them in your organization for a decade plus or what have you. And like having to understand that that's just not how this works with this sport, where you're moving guys, you're transferring them, you're selling them and all of that. And like with Danny, man, I could see him being around here for a long time. I really could. I think he's established himself in the city of Austin. I know, again, he's one of a lot of people's favorite players. He's definitely on the short list for me. I love me some Pep, and we'll see what comes of this for sure. There's plenty of time to work this out. And with the roster the way it is right now, he is an integral piece to have a plan for when you're trying to make other moves that you will be making here in these upcoming months.
Yeah, and it does feel like, I'm with you. It feels like he's on the precipice of it being too late, for lack of a better term, to make that move. I guess it's never too late, but to what end are you going over there as your career goes? He'll be 26 in the middle of next season. So we'll keep our eyes out, of course, for a potential Danny extension. And no extension for him, but we did get a new contract for the captain here. Ilie Sanchez signs a new deal with the club. New 1+1 guaranteed through the end of next season with an option for that 2027 season. So you get Ilie back. I think both of us ended up on, when we did what we, said what we wanted to happen with all of these decisions. I think we were in lockstep where it's like, bring him back if the number is correct. And so clearly for the front office, the number was right here. We won't know that number until the spring salary release. And again, I think we were saying, like, in the perfect world, Ilie takes the Diego slot and is on the supplemental roster. But to go from the like 1.2 mil or whatever he was on with LA in 2024 to the 600K he was on with us, to that would have to be 226K or below to get him on the supplemental roster next year. I don't think that's crazy. But Ilie or anybody is not jumping at that offer, right? Unless you really just want to keep playing and have no other course of action. There's obviously other factors with your family and everything like that. But it is not the team keeps a roster profile on the website updated as much as they can. Ilie is not, they made some of the other updates, the contract numbers and, expiration dates and everything like that. Ervin's on there on the supplemental. Ilie is still sitting in a senior roster slot, but that does not mean that Ilie is not going to be on the supplemental roster next year. We will not know until the spring, because same thing happened with Diego last year. He signed a new 1+1 on October 24th. The league released the team roster profiles for the spring on February 27th of this year. That was when we learned that Diego Rubio was on a supplemental roster slot. So I am hoping we have some maneuverability there, or we have maneuvered rather, to get Ilie onto a supplemental deal. It will just be a couple months most likely until we know the actual answer to that. But I just wanted to, I was sitting here saying to myself, well, this isn't going to happen. Thought about Diego, went back and looked. We got to wait for the actual answer, man. And that's fingers crossed, because that would be a nice succulent Thanksgiving side dish if this was supplemental Ilie.
Yep. I mean, a guy, again, with the intangibles that you need to have a good team. And obviously he's lost a step. He's not the player that he once was out there on the field, but he still proved himself to be a more, at least an average player in this league last season, in my opinion. Obviously you have the leadership qualities. I think he showed a willingness to, have a bit of an enforcer role as well with this team, which we were lacking a little bit ever since the Punisher departed, for sure. And again, if we can get him on the right figures and have him on that supplemental roster, that's a huge win in my book. Is he a guy who I think is a game out, night in, night out starter? No, I don't think he is. I think he needs rotation at this stage in his career. And he's also just not a dude who you're like, okay, he's in, we're playing, we should be favorite in this game. And, all that to say, I would be extremely happy to have him on a supplemental, or even just have him come in at a 300, 400K. I'm fine with that. Not every contract is going to be the most perfect, efficient model of what it looks like, and you're getting the exact amount of production. And I know that Roto has brought up this, hierarchical thing that he wants to work with, but still, we have to base ourselves in reality here. And having Ilie on this team, I think is good for team morale. I think it's good for the younger guys. And I think there's a lot of things about him that, are pointing towards potentially having, a coaching career. And maybe that's why he's willing to take a supplemental roster and move down from that 1.2 million figure you brought up into potentially being at, a third of that.
When I think 33 appearances for Ilie, overall competitions last season, 25 starts mixed in there. I don't think we should, to your point, I don't think we should expect that number to go up, right? Yeah. And so if you're not going to start more than 25 games across all competitions, can you be the captain?
True. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So we're going to have to see. I think the captaincy is potentially on the table here, not because Ilie doesn't deserve it or doesn't exhibit those qualities. He does, I think, right up there with anybody who has ever worn the armband for this club. But it's just, again, it is a transition period at the end of Ilie's career here, meaning that it's a transition period that we're going through with him here with Ilie and Austin FC. So we have the guy already in the defensive midfield that is the heir apparent Or that's why you sign a guy to a U22 deal and pay upwards of $1 million in a transfer fee for him, Nico Duber-Sarski. I'm expecting a bigger role from Duber next season. He's had a year now kind of under the wing of Ilie here in the defensive midfield. I think as Duber went throughout the season, fans started to recognize, I guess, some of the little things that he was doing in that midfield when he did get those chances, right? It wasn't a ton of time for Duber. I think 694 minutes across his 22 league appearances this season. It was 9 starts, 25 appearances across all competitions, 873 minutes. I think we should, in a perfect world, that minutes total doubles or maybe slightly more than doubles next season. Because that is the goal of these U22 guys, man, especially when you pay those transfer fees. Mm-hmm. We're trying to build this guy up into somebody that we can sell 3-4 years down the road. It's why Djordjevic and why Duber have those long contracts when you go look at the year by year depth chart that we have there at the northendpodcast.com. So I wanted to bring up Duber and potentially raise the expectations here in the North End for him here at the end of November. I think looking ahead, you got to expect that unless you want to use another roster slot in the defensive midfield. And with Ilie back, I don't think we can afford that.
Yeah, no, I don't think we can afford that either. And I'm not going to judge Duber based solely on this one season that he had here. He's going to have to take a step, in my opinion. He's going to have to take a step, and we'll see what he's got. Obviously the scouting team saw something in him. Roto put his faith in him, as you mentioned, with that very long deal that he's received here to come over and play for Austin. So they see something in the kid, and I do as well, for sure. And I think as the season went on, he got a little more comfortable. You started to see him play a little bit more naturally, a little bit more freely. And again, he's going to have to take a step here, but it hasn't been our defense that has been the thing that's held us back the entire time here that we've been in club. It's been our inability to score goals efficiently and to capitalize on our opportunities. And that brings me to probably what I think is the biggest looming question for this team is, what are you doing with Mirtu and BV? What is that? What are we doing with that? Are we running that back?
Yeah. Are we going to continue to try to cram it together until it works?
Exactly. Are you trying to make that work at all costs? And maybe you are, because of what you've committed to both of these guys. And we know that BV is obviously very much in the long-term plans for this team. But if you're looking at it, it's Mirtu's got, an option in 2028, but you got him under contract for these next 2 seasons here. And that's the big question for me. You know what I mean? Again, with Ilie, is that putting us over the top? No. Is Duber putting us over the top? No. Is selling Danny potentially putting us over the top or trying to make Danny fit here long term? I don't think so. You have to have these top flight guys play really fucking well. And we saw how much those guys were clashing when they were playing together, and we need to figure it out. We have to. I don't know if it's a stylistic change, what we look like formationally, how we're going to approach games schematically, or if it's moving on from, Mirtu. And, again, we talked about ACL injuries for these attacking players and how it affects their careers, long-term with BV, and having that injury really fucking hurt because, again, I don't want to judge it entirely based on that very small sample size we had, which was maybe 14 games, something like that.
With those two? I think it was 19.
So
with those two, it was small. I think 19 BV appearances, but Mirtu didn't play the first 2 games or came in at the end of Portland, and then international duty as well. So, and
again, I don't want to judge it solely based on that very, very small sample size, but we're up against the wall now because of that BV injury, and they didn't have a chance to make it. They didn't have an offseason together. Like we said, we had 14, 15 games together. You didn't have a chance to really, really try to figure this thing out. Yeah. But we already know Coach Nico isn't the most aggressive tactic guy. We're not an aggressive offensive team pushing forward. That's not how we play. And if it's just going to be, hey, you two figure this out and we're going to try to make this work, I don't feel great about that. So, there's plenty of questions that still need to be answered, and there's still plenty of time to do those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will, if you're a North End listener and you're, out there doing a mock off season in your head, keep in mind between those 2 DPs, if you want to get rid of one of them, Also got to factor in, this is just me projecting my own mock off season in my head while I'm like walking the dog. BV, the domestic DP is still so valuable from a roster build standpoint, injury included, man. It's like I still would move on from Mirtu and the mental side, the mental side of it that went downhill at the end of last season and wasn't great to begin with.
Yeah.
But again, like if both of those guys are still here, I'm still going to back them.
But
you bringing up the offseason, you also don't have an offseason here to try to restart, rekindle that connection. So
it's on the coaching staff if they're going to keep both of them. It's on the coaching staff to figure it the fuck out if you're going to keep both of these guys here.
Yeah. Well, you can see how we can dovetail all over the place here. Let's get back to the contract, because that was the end of the contract option decisions, but not the end of the new contracts. Ervin Torres has signed a homegrown contract with Austin FC, guaranteed through the 2028 season with options for both 2029 and 2030. Ervin, of course, is an academy product here in Austin, initially joined the U14s in the fall of 2020, MLS Next All-Star in 2023. He's made 53 appearances with Austin FC2 since 2023, starting 46 of those 53 appearances, 8 goals, 5 assists at the MLS Next Pro level. Of course, Ervin made his MLS debut on decision day of the 2024 season, playing the final 7 minutes, I believe, +2 on the scoreboard there in the comeback 3-2 victory over Colorado. He became the first player on that night to represent Austin FC at the first, second team, and academy team levels, and the second youngest player to appear in an MLS match for Austin FC. He was 16 years and 340 days old. So, of course, just the only one younger was Owen Wolff back in 2021. Ervin also won an MLS appearance last season off the bench in the 2-1 road victory against Sporting KC during that September international window a few months back. So Ervin joins Owen and Micah Burton as the 3 players who have signed homegrown deals with Austin FC after initially competing with the academy. And of course, on that homegrown deal, Ervin will occupy a supplemental roster slot. So with that, we can bring up the sheets here from the northendpodcast.com onto our screen, and you can see how the roster is currently situated. With Stephen Cleveland on that senior roster slot, we have 2 senior roster slots available. You have 4 supplemental slots available with Riley Thomas exercised and Ervin Torres now officially a first-team player. No international slots still, of course, and that 1 U22 slot sitting out there. But this is not this is not the entire story. And this is maybe I'm grinding an axe here, but you got to be careful reading some of the national media and their coverage of your favorite team. Like I'll pick on Matt Doyle here in his, and it was, again, I enjoy Doyle's work overall, but he's a little snarky when people correct him on mistakes that he's made. So I'm going to correct him here, Don't let Matt Doyle's article fool you into thinking that Austin FC does not have the cap space, the purchasing power here to go out and bring in somebody, particularly in the attacking midfield. I think is the general consensus of what we would all like to see one of those TAM slots spent on. Doyle in his offseason kind of primer here said that Austin probably doesn't have the space. We have all of our TAM. You could bring in 2 max TAM guys if you want to. Right, you have to go out and find the player. Yeah, it has to be the right player. But as far as the team having the space, they absolutely do. And then some. And also don't let TAM fool you into thinking that you need a DP to be that game changer in the midfield.
Correct.
Like you go through these rosters, Pep Biel, Philip Zinkernagel, Eric Tommy, Marco Royce, Robin Lod, Edward Leuven, Thomas Muller. We could keep going. And not all, are we going to get the next Thomas Muller coming over from Europe? Probably not. But not all of those guys are on that level or have that resume, right? And so you can absolutely add some high caliber talent anywhere on the field with all of the TAM that this team has at its disposal going forward. So I just want to, Doyle also said that Owen Wolff could get a U22 deal, which he's right on. And I would not hate if Owen wants to stay here longer term, right? That's how we can up his salary to be more competitive where it would be somewhere else, right? We have that U22 slot open. Then he said Owen would keep the same cap hit, which is incorrect. You have to be on the senior roster in a U22 slot. Owen Wolf, currently on the supplemental, does not hit the cap at all. So again, just be careful out there. If you want the nitty gritty for your favorite team, you stick in the independent media sphere here around Austin, which is not just us. But you talk about the nitty gritty, the real sicko shit, it probably is.
Yeah. If you want to just watch your step out there is what we're saying. But yes, and I mean, that was like, when we pulled this up and I've been looking at these sheets, right, and everything, from a talent standpoint, this is a middle of the table team at best, talent-wise right here. You have to go find somebody, and there's avenues, like you mentioned here, with all of our TAM available to us to go ahead and get guys that change games for us. And we are in need of that. So it can still come, down the pipeline and everything. I think that we've seen and that the front office is ambitious with what they want to do with this team, has been willing to spend. Has it worked out perfectly? No, but they are showing a willingness to do that. And I anticipate that we are going to find someone in that attacking midfield to come in here and boost this team, to boost the floor of this team and give guys like Buka, like BV once he's back, and potentially unlocking Mirtu with the, like it's not just, on the coaching staff to figure out ways to make this work entirely, like with the front office being able to find somebody who can distribute the ball to both sides of the field where we're feeling good about that. Could help Mirtu out. So again, there's questions to be answered. I do think they will be answered, but it's going to take a little time.
Well, now you got me thinking about Mirtu here too. And again, like, I'm not going to sit here and suggest that Mirtu finished at a clip that is acceptable for the role that he has taken, that he was hired for by this team, right? Mm-hmm. But the vast majority of his goals came from great service from his teammates when we were able to get it to him. 1-2 touch, bang.
Yep.
Right? Ilie, from Ilie rather, in the Open Cup final. Like, that was quick strike.
Yep.
One touch, finish. You think about Rubio up the gut to him against the Galaxy. BHI up the gut to him against DC. When you can put the ball on his foot, one touch, probably finishing, right? Yeah. He did not get enough looks at that.
He did not. And that was something, even if you subtract the times he did score off of those, that was something that he was routinely demanding. Well, you saw him very, very, vocal about that, being like, put it on my foot, put it on my foot here. Yeah. If it's a line breaking pass, that seems to be, he didn't have any goals in the air, right? One,
I don't
maybe.
Think so, man.
I don't think he had any goals in the air.
I think he had a couple like off the post, headers off the post.
So like that might be the way that he prefers to have that distributed to him. And like, if you can find a guy who can do that, and again, they do exist. They don't have to be Thomas Muller. An all-time legendary great player, or Marco Royce for that matter. So They do exist. They are out there, and we have the TAM to go get them.
When you see on our year-by-year depth chart here with the cap hits on the roster sheets, again, you can find this at thenorthendpodcast.com. Ervin Torres now the second Austin FC player who has a contract option for that 2030 season alongside Nico Duber-Sarsky. You see also Mateja Djordjevic, right, is the other one. He and CJ, and then BV, right, has that option as well. So you've now got one guy guaranteed in the 2029 season and four options: Djordjevic, Torres, Fodre, and BV.
And it got lost a little bit there, but I do want to jump back to the Ervin thing. I think that is something to be really excited about. I think that he has a lot of potential. Obviously, has been here with the organization for a long time. Those cool figures that you threw out about him being the first player to play academy, second level, and then for the first team as well. And, I know it was an incredibly small sample size when he was out there. But from what I've seen from him at Next Pro, which has been a very good amount of minutes that I've seen at that level for him, I think he is a player who's going to belong on the field to play competently out there, and we can move him around a little bit. He can move around the midfield when he's lined up out there. You can put him in an attacking role. He can play a little bit more centrally, and he has some experience at the defensive midfield position as well. I think he's somebody to be excited about.
Yeah, dude, and that's the value of the homegrown deals, the supplemental roster slots where you don't hit the cap. If Ervin Torres hits his ceiling, which I don't think is where Owen Wolf's is, right? Like, I don't think Ervin Torres is ever going to be the best player on an Austin FC team for a full season. Like, I think we all agree Owen was, at least on of the field players. But if Ervin comes anywhere close to what we think his ceiling could be as an MLSer, through 2030, no cap hit, like that is exactly what we've been dying to try to emulate, rather, from the Seattles, the Phillies, LAFC at times with the Nathan Ordaz, guys like that. So yeah, I'm with you, man. This is very exciting. And congrats to Ervin, man, because it's not easy. Yeah. Clearly, it's not easy to just come up, Ervin's our best academy product, we're going to give him a deal. No. Yeah. Roto did not go out. Just that supplemental slot has been open since we started the team. Yep. So that was earned, man. It's challenging because you're competing against the world. It doesn't just get like you come over here and you're one of the best players in the academy. That's great. You're looking at a pool of players from around the fucking globe. So a huge congrats to Ervin. And like you said, very well deserved. And that is something that I'm excited about. And I hope other people are getting excited about because, again, he has that potential. Rumors, whispers, made up trades, consequences we never weigh. Logic's thin, the mic is hot. Let's pretend this means a lot. Taking shots from way downtown, hoping no one writes it down. Hot takes flying without hesitation. It's time for some reckless speculation. All right, rumor mill time here. Midweek here, we got turned on to this rumor. Shout out to our buddy Long Cal, who was the one who alerted us to a Reddit comment from a Seattle fan that led us to Nico Moreno's Twitter. Nico Moreno, a beat writer there for Seattle, I believe covers a number of other teams as well, but mainly covering the Sounders. And then Moreno's Twitter account led us to a podcast appearance where he made this comment that former Seattle Sounders center back John Bell is in negotiations with Austin FC to join as a free agent. And so this was something that came as a little bit of a surprise. Again, we had to do that digging because on Moreno's social accounts, on his Instagram as well, he had reported that Chicago Fire had interest in Bell. But then it was only on this podcast appearance where he mentioned that John Bell was actually in negotiations with Austin to join the club. So we did. You can actually go to any of our socials, or YouTube or Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, whatever. We had Nico's audio on there talking about John Bell. So you can go find that, the actual clip of him discussing the situation. It certainly sounds like this is in the advanced stages if Moreno is already reporting that Bell is in negotiations with the team. And this is something that, shocker to the North End faithful that I'm excited about a player rumor, but I'm excited about this for the role it would probably fill. Not that John Bell would come in here and even be a guy that starts more than a handful of games throughout the season, but he profiles as somebody that would be competing for center back minutes, probably slot in as the third, probably the fourth, if everybody else does the job that we expect them to do, especially Mateja Djordjevic, right? And him trying to compete for starting minutes next to Svatok in BHI. But John Bell was on $135,000 last season with Seattle. He was not on their supplemental roster, but that number is eligible with a GAM buy down. And I think looking at the Seattle roster profile, they didn't have him on the supplemental because they got homegrowns in those spots, so they don't need that shit. But we certainly do. And so if that's what's happening here, you can almost double John Bell's salary from last year and get him on the supplemental roster here with Austin and filling the fourth center back slot that was just vacated by Julio Cascante's TAM contract with potentially a supplemental guy who is a very experienced MLS player. Again, never been a game in, game out starter for his stops with New England. I believe he came up in the Revs system, played with their second team before Next Pro was around. So he was in USL League One, then had 27 appearances with the Revs, 3 appearances with St. Louis in their expansion season, and then spent the last 2 seasons with the Sounders, making 18 starts in his 31 league appearances. This is a guy that will be, I believe, 27, turn 28, just turned 28. So would be 28 next season in his athletic prime, age-wise, stereotypically, with about 4,000 minutes at the MLS level. This is perfect for the role that we want to fill with the fourth center back slot. Again, if you're going to run out the 3-back all year next year, maybe we need a 5th. But regardless, this still fills that role that we so desperately needed with the potential cap relief that would come along with that role. I'm very, very excited about the prospect of adding John Bell to the mix here in Austin.
I'm definitely excited as well. And I think that 3 center back look with the 5-back is a big aspect of this, because that removes the need to have Guilherme in there. You know what I mean? And we've had, issues staying healthy at the center back position. We've had issues finding some continuity, but I think we finally gotten to a point where we feel really good about the 3 that we have right now, and adding him into that room sounds like good business to me. And a very athletic player. He can push up the field. He can play a little left back as well, which he has in the past there. And it's not like, he was playing for, San Jose, where it's like they could have used any fucking defender off the street. He was up in Seattle with, some of the premier defenders in this league. And for him to find time and kind of carve out a role is impressive in my book. And the times I've seen him play, I have been impressed with him. He got plenty of time in the Leagues Cup as well this year. And it would be a nice addition. And as you mentioned, if you're getting rid of Julio, when you get rid of Julio and you replace it with a John Bell, for that amount of money being saved and the quality of John Bell, that is a nice thing for this team, and something to really get excited about if this is going to be able to come through here.
Again, you go look at his all comps game log, dude. Like John Bell, again, Seattle was dealing with injuries on their back line, injuries, suspensions, right, throughout the season. But played 45 against Botafogo, started and went the full 90 in the 3-1 loss to Atletico Madrid, right? Played 71 minutes in the start in the 2-0 loss to PSG. So, this is a guy who's going out there holding his own against some of the best clubs in the world, not just in MLS. So, again, adding him to the mix here. Free agency opens on December 10th, so you could potentially get an announcement of Bell or any other free agent signings in less than 2 weeks. That is at noon Central Time when free agency opens on December 10th. So, it's coming up fast, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited about it.
Anything else for you on John Bell?
Nah.
All right, let's move into the nonsense portion here, E. Let's talk about the goal of the year bracket. Second round voting has closed. Third round voting is now open when you hear this. And let's take a look at what went down, man. A little less exciting, I think, results-wise here in the second round. Things straightened out a little bit. We'll start, of course, with the home region, where we had the BV on BV matchup, the 1 seed taking on the 5 seed, 86% of the vote for that Vasquez free kick against Atlanta. Wow. So the 1 seed advances, and the 1 lower seed, I believe, that is still left in this contest, or rather below a 4 seed that's left, is the 7-seeded Owen Wolf 51st minute equalizer against Dallas, takes down the John Gallagher quick restart, another Owen Wolf assist there in that John Gallagher goal. But this was the closest matchup of the second round, 54-46 in favor of that 7th-seeded Owen Wolf goal in the home region. So it comes down to this. Two great goals. Oomph with both of those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. That looks good to me. I like that.
Scrolling over to the away region here, right? This is all goals scored, of course, away from Q2 Stadium. Chalk here in the away region. Owen Wolf's 37th minute goal at Sporting KC. That is the 1 seed here. 82% of the vote against his goal against Montreal, which was the 4 seed. And then at the bottom of the region, CJ Fodre's first career MLS goal, 82nd minute winner. These are the 2 goals in that Sporting KC game. So I think we have our favorite road game of the season here, at least when it comes to the goals that were scored. CJ's goal took 86% of that vote. So Owen against CJ there in the away region, the 1 and the 2.
Whew, that's a tough one.
Yeah, that's good job by the committee.
I think if you're looking, at just the skill component of the goals scored here, this Owen Wolf goal is tough to beat. But CJ is definitely the
he's got
Cinderella.
The juice.
He's definitely the Cinderella story of the bracket here. And he's going to be tough to beat because he's a fan favorite right now for sure. So we'll see how that goes down. But man, that Owen Wolf goal, I can't say enough good things about it. So much components to that are just like, oh,
yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I'm not gonna editorialize here, give away how I'm gonna vote, but I'm thinking about these things, man. The emotions, the skill, the talent. Maybe the announcing calls can factor into my excitement in some of these. I don't know. We scroll down to the Vibes region. We got another one, too, here in the Vibes region, E. Of course, your call at the beginning of this exercise this year, which I think you've nailed 2 years in a row now. You called the CJ winner in the semifinal against Minnesota. That takes 91% of the vote against the 9% for Mirtu's equalizing goal just before the half against Nashville in the final. But Mirtu makes it through at the bottom of the Vibes region, his 2-seed, 96th-minute winner against Seattle, again, assisted by CJ. And I believe on the CJ goal against Minnesota, the last guy to touch it before CJ put it in was Mirtu. So we've got a little bit of a duel here between CJ and Mirtu in the Vibes region. I'm going to be interested to see how much I'm with you. I think the Fodre goal comes out of the Vibes region. I'm not locked in. I'm thinking about it. Thinking about it. I got some things that I did when Mirtu put that goal in. I was excited.
You were amped up. I think he couldn't have two polar opposites here on the popularity chart right now in the popularity contest for sure. But that's not to take away from the CJ game winner there in Minnesota. But that's still my choice. Still my pick.
We scroll over, close it out with the Verde region here. A 1 and a 3 making it through. So BV's got both of his 1 seeds through that 29th minute goal in the Open Cup to begin the scoring in that 3-1 victory against Houston. That takes 77% of the vote against his game winner against the Galaxy at home. And then Buka, the 3 seed, takes down the 7th seeded, upset-minded Azuni goal at the Galaxy. 73% of the vote for Buka's 12th minute goal against San Jose at home, of course, sent through on the run by Owen Wolf there. So there are your 4 quarter finalists here, E. Voting again, open now. So again, the further we go through this exercise every year, the less time it takes you all to go and vote for these. So you can head to the northendpodcast.com right now or go to any of the posts on our social pages that will be posted on Monday. You get your votes in here for the 4 remaining quarterfinal matchups. You come back next weekend, and we'll see who's into the Final Four.
Yeah, I'm excited to see who's in the Final Four coming up here.
Alrighty, so we close it out. Just a little bit of an Academy update. Looks like we're just going to have tournaments between now and Christmas for the young boys here in the Academy. The El Arbolito Cup returns to Austin. This is December 12th through the 14th, right? So we talked about the Viviero Cup that will take place next weekend. The weekend after this will be the El Arbolito Cup. So the club announced this is the U13 and 14 Academy tournament. Teams from Austin and 7 other MLS academies will compete in the 5th edition of this annual tournament in Austin, including Chicago Fire, Colorado Rapids, FC Cincinnati, Houston Dynamo, Inter Miami, Orlando City, and St. Louis City. Each team will play 4 group stage matches before playing a 5th match based on the performance in the group stage. Games 2 25-minute halves, 5-minute halftime for the U13s, 2 35-minute halves for the U14s. So our champs will be crowned on Sunday, the 14th. In the group stages, the U14s will compete against Chicago, Miami, St. Louis, and Cincinnati. The U13s group has Cincy, Houston, Chicago, and Orlando. So El Vivero Cup coming up this coming weekend, 2 weeks from now. El Arbolito Cup. Best of luck to all the Academy teams out there here in the holiday season.
Yes, enjoy, have fun, go out there, get it done.
All right, man, I think we have made it through just over an hour here on episode 273. Anything else for you, E, before we shut it down?
I'm all good, man.
All right, everybody, we appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us here on episode 273. We're back next weekend talking about everything that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. We hope you had a good Thanksgiving. You enjoy your week. We'll do the same, and we'll see you back here next Sunday for another episode. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.